I just want to get started with a basic question. What sparked you to become an author? Your on screen actually went sideways. Yeah, there we go. What inspired you to become an author?
I wanted to tell my story. I wanted to tell my story, the love story, my love story with Jesus Christ. I wanted to share it with the world. That's the direct reason why I became an author.
To share your story about your love with Jesus Christ?
Yes.
Okay, awesome. And so your love story is centered around, of course, you romancing with men based on your title, and now you are in a romance with Jesus Christ. But let's go back to that childhood and what sparked this initial love for men. So as I'm reading your book, and this is a disclaimer for people who have not read the book yet, I don't want to give too much away, but there's a point in the book when you are directly speaking to me, and it's because I had this thought as I was reading the book. And you mentioned that some people may think that you didn't have a healthy upbringing. And I know there was one point where you were speaking about your infatuation with what you saw on television, put you in a position where you wanted to be loved like the people that you saw on the scene, particularly the women. What was love like in your household? Tell us about your relationship with your mother and your father before we continue, so people can have a little background about what they may or may not think about your story.
Understood. I had a generally loving home, a generally nurturing, family-oriented home. My immediate family loved me. My extended family loved me. On both sides of my family, they're very large. My grandmother had 6 kids. My great-grandmother on my mother's side had 12 girls. At least all of them had at least one child, if not more. So I knew what it was to be loved generally. I felt that love was by default because I felt like they were supposed to love me because of family. I wanted the love that I saw in the soap opera sex scene at 5 years old at my babysitter's house. I was never raped. I was never molested. Nobody ever did anything to me that I didn't want them to do, but I saw the way this woman was being held and kissed and contorting her body underneath a man's chin and holding on to him in this passionate 10-second sex scene on the opening credits of a soap opera. In the preceding scene, she was drinking wine and then being swept off her feet. So I just felt that this woman is loved. When it got to the sex scene, and I said, I like what the man is doing, but I want to be the woman because I want to be loved like her. And that's where the seed, the desire to be a woman or physically desire a woman and to be with men, that's where it came from.
Okay, so you mentioned you wanted a love like her. And you also mentioned that your love with your family was the fault. So going back to your brain as a young child, what did you define love as? Or what
I felt love was acts of kindness, acts of affection, and what I know affection to be now, acts of endearment, physical touch. And I saw all of those things in the midst of the sex scene that was taking place, all the sexual activity. I saw those things being done in the midst of sex or leading up to sex. So this is what I felt the pinnacle of love was if you're if somebody can make love to you like this, then you're really loved. So the only way to be loved like that, you got to be the woman.
Okay, I'm following. So you also are mentioning in your book about the airways and its impact on you deciding that you were gay at that moment or some moment in your life. I won't say which moment, but there was an influence, especially with what you were seeing on television, of course. And so I want to elaborate on this idea that someone could be born gay. Why do you think someone would say that they were born gay based on your experience?
Um, because where did the thought come from? You have to like ask yourself, like, where did this thought come from? Where was the idea for him to attach himself to the desires of a woman, or to want to desire a man being sexually active with him at 5 years old? Nobody ever raped me. Nobody ever molested me. So was it always there? Was it just activated? Was it stimulated? Where and why me? So you would assume that someone could say he was born that way. Uh, I disagree for two reasons. The first reason is because they're of the sin nature versus the sexual spectrum. The sexual spectrum says you can be pansexual, bisexual, homosexual, asexual, all of those things. And scientifically, it makes sense. As a believer in Christ Jesus and the will of God, I believe that there is a sin spectrum. And the sin spectrum, on the sin spectrum, because we all sin and fall short of the glory of God. When Adam fell in the garden, there was no definition of what sin. It just was sin, the depravity of the righteousness of God. So there's no telling what you will give yourself to, what your mind can begin to desire, what you will want, that you feel, what circumstances can be presented to you, and you will go after this thing or this thought or this activity. It's no telling, no telling what emotion you will play out in your mind or play out in reality. So what I believe is that according to the sin spectrum, I fell on the spectrum of homosexuality and deep lust. And yes, I said deep lust.
Okay.
And falling on that spectrum of the sin nature, there's no telling what other people can fall into, because we all have sinned and fall short of the glory of God. Also, the LGBT community even says, and I can understand this, that maybe, Victor, you were never gay. You had not discovered your sexual orientation until later in your life. You were experimenting and you were examining and experiencing what you wanted, and then you finalized what you wanted by your own, here we go, your own decision. What gave you the most completion? So there are members of the LGBT community that say that there is no such thing as being born gay. We have all made a choice, and we have a right to our choice. And society around us should leave us alone and let us live our choice freely. Mm-hmm. Now, this is the other reason why I say I understand why people would say born gay, but I don't believe it. There is a book called After the Ball. It's written by Hunter Kirk and Matson. If you look up Hunter Kirk and Matson, you will find this book. This book was authored by these two gentlemen who were Harvard graduates. One was a psychologist and one was a marketing major. And what they were trying to develop, they were both homosexuals. They were both trying to create a narrative that presented their sexual orientation to the world, but changed the thought process of how the heterosexual looked at, or how heterosexuals looked at homosexuals, or how the thought process of how they viewed them, the understanding of what it represented in our society. And they said, we cannot say that it is a choice, because the faith-based communities, or the faith-based sects, SECTS, will tear this apart. They will chew it up. But we must take a methodology where sympathy and empathy is produced by emotion and by sight alone, by feeling, by conversation, by opinion alone. And they said the best methodology of this, to execute this goal, would to adopt the methodology of the Black Civil Rights Movement. This is fact. Look this up. This is not opinion. This is not something that I want to press on people. Just and it's hearsay. This was their actual study and goal and plan of execution. And people all around the world are saying, I'm born gay, I'm born gay, I'm born gay, have no clue why the phrase even exists.
The phrase I'm going gay?
I'm born gay.
Oh, I'm born gay. Okay.
Yes.
So you're saying that the phrase I'm born gay is a part of a plan that has been executed.
Yes.
Right? Okay.
Yeah. Yes. And this is not, I'm going to say this again. This is not what I'm saying. This was their methodology of study that they executed. They said, we must infiltrate all arenas of society. This is not what I'm saying. This is what they said. Look this up. Read the book. They said we must infiltrate entertainment. We must infiltrate the education system. We must infiltrate the judicial system. We must infiltrate law enforcement. We must infiltrate the church. We must infiltrate all areas of society so we can be seen as normal. And if anyone opposes us or has a difference of opinion according to our lifestyle, they will be viewed as a villain, or they will be viewed as wrong or deviant to society. They have executed and been successful in their goal, because today that is what society will present to you. If you disagree with homosexuality, not disagreeing with people, not discriminating or hating people or being evil to people, that's totally different from disagreeing with homosexuality as a concept or a behavior. People being mistreated as human beings for whatever reason, and I repeat that, people being mistreated as human beings for whatever reason is wrong. If for any provoked reason that you discriminate or want to hurt them or be violent or be verbally insensitive to them, is wrong. But me disagreeing with you, I have a right in my human mind to disagree with you. And if you are saying that you want to take away my ability to disagree with you, you are trying to control the masses.
What is the source of these two people? Why did they, like, what's their ultimate goal in developing this plan?
They were gay, and they wanted the society to see them, to see homosexuals as normal fits of society, which they should have been able to do without having to do this plan, because it's just in that time in society, if you were gay, if you were lesbian, you were considered deviant because of the heterosexual norm of society. So I believe their plan was obtuse, because what they did with their plan was they forced everyone to now see, to agree with homosexuality, or if you don't agree with homosexuality, that you're deviant or you're wrong or you're evil or you're vilified. Their plan was just to be for homosexuality to be normalized in society. But their plan, their methodology was that of the civil rights movement. So when anybody says anything about Black people today that is insensitive, that is negative, that is microaggressive, that marginalizes them, or is not considerate of the culture, they are vilified. They are politically incorrect. They are considered being racist or bigot or things related to that. So they just said, let's remove Black people and put us in that equation. So now if anybody says anything against us or disagrees with us, they will have the same effect that a racist or bigot or related terms of that nature will be to homosexuals in the LGBT community.
So these two men had this much power with just their thoughts alone to penetrate the generations after they published this book in order for it to become a methodology. And this is, I guess, this two regular men, from my understanding, right? They're not no powerful source or anything like that.
They weren't. They were Harvard graduates. They were very smart. From a marketing standpoint, their plan was excellent. It's psychological marketing to the umpteenth power. They did a wonderful job of doing that. I mean, their plan was much like Pepsi or Coca-Cola or Nike, when you keep seeing something, when it pulls on your emotions, that's what they wanted to do. Tug on the emotions of individuals around us so that people will begin to side with us and agree with us unconsciously. And unconsciously, they will disagree with anybody that disagrees with us.
Okay, marketing. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Marketing is very powerful. From my opinion, it looks like the world has marketed, bad energy, negativity. Like it's easier for people to think
Yes.
Negative direction. So easy that if someone is positive or upbeat, it's almost like, why are you doing that?
There
Like,
you go.
you know,
And then the world has created the narratives or the new definitions of what is positive. And they have created new definitions of what is negative.
Yeah.
You got to think about it. Let's just look at this from a perspective of visibility. It was not positive, or it was negative to see naked bodies or really revealing bodies on television at some point in time in America. And it was positive to disagree with it. You would not be considered something wrong. Or it was positive to agree with that. We shouldn't see half naked bodies on television. It was something that would be plausible. Now, if you say it's too much nakedness over TV, you're considered not only negative, you are considered a shamer of some sort, and people will come for your throat.
That's interesting.
Now think about this. Whether you agree or disagree is irrelevant. They don't even care about that. They are now saying, we will cancel you. We will shut you down because you disagree. Look at that. Pay attention to this. Pay attention to this. People will rip your platform from the inside out because you disagree. Now, the only time, if I can liken this to, the only thing I can liken this to is the X-Men versus human beings. Magneto wanted everybody that was not a mutant to die. And if you disagreed, even you didn't have to disagree. Just because your mind was not mutant, he wanted you to die. And then you had certain human beings that if you were an X-Men or a mutant, they wanted you to die.
Just like if someone said you're gay or not gay, they're so upset that they want you to die.
I'm not saying they want you to die, but they want to kill the liberty of your mind. They want to kill the freedom of your thinking. I need to be able to infiltrate your thinking and manipulate it for me to say, no, what you're thinking is not the way we think. What you're thinking is wrong. It's not a part of our utopia. It's not a part of our society. Liberal society should say we can think what we want to think, and we should still be able to be fair and kind and considerate of other human beings.
So
but
on
I know
that point,
go ahead.
On that point, let's sit there for a second, because Christianity, your source is Christ, your source is Christianity, and one of the principles is that homosexuality is frowned upon.
And let's be plain about it. It ain't frowned upon. It's a sin, like every other sin.
Okay, so anybody outside of Christianity, based on what we said of liberty of the mind, if anyone outside of Christianity says that, I choose to be gay, because there's also choice. I choose to be gay. I choose to be a sinner. Let's just take you for instance. Would your standpoint, based on what you said, cause any corruption to the liberty of their mindset?
Absolutely not, because they have a free choice. See, that's the problem. People feel that because what I believe, my faith, what I believe is absolute truth. Now, when I say absolute truth, I believe that the truth of my faith is the truth, and that's the only truth. But there are others that think I'm crazy. They think I'm brainwashed. They think I'm worshiping a white man's God. They think I'm worshiping this invisible sky god. And that's fine. That's what they believe. But what I'm saying is My belief has nothing to do with your belief. As long as I don't force it on you, as long as I don't insult you, as long as I don't hit you, rape, maim, pillage you, take from you, steal from you. If I'm not doing that, then my belief has nothing to do with you.
Yeah, it has
And
nothing
that's why
to
I
do
wrote
with
my
you.
book. That's why I wrote my, because it's my love story. It's my story of compassion and mercy and forgiving and forgiveness. It's my story of romance from the depths of insecurity and fear and anger and inadequacy. It's my story. So if you disagree with it, you ain't got to buy it. You ain't got to look at it. You ain't got to subscribe to anything that's of me. But this is my story.
Yeah.
And see, the problem is the LGBT community says we want to force our way everywhere, and we want you to agree with us. If you don't, we have a problem with you.
And it should be fair, right? It should be fair. You should be able to have your faith in God and believe in your story that this is your truth. And the LGBT community, I'm not sure of all of the acronyms, but another mindset or another concept should also be able to believe in their truth. I think the issue becomes an issue when everyone is trying to force everyone else to be what their truth is. And that's again taken away, like you said, that liberty, because the bottom line is to not take it personal and to establish your own truth and live your life. But when we try to swim our way into other people's lives and force their way of thinking onto I can't force my way of thinking onto your way of thinking. It's just a conversation, right? We probably have different perspectives on a lot of things, but to respect each other and to respect each other's truth in each other's world is where we kind of have some peace. I think people disrupt their own peace when they're trying to make other people become what they want them to become. Because again, if you don't want anyone to distract you from being who you are, then you can't force it on anyone else. But
it's only by subscription. It's only by choice that people ask me or want to know my story. I am a former down low homosexual, and as my story continues, what we were talking about earlier, as we were discussing earlier, I wanted to be the woman. Nothing happened. Nobody raped me. Nobody molested me. Nobody took anything from me. I wanted to be the woman because I felt love if I was the woman.
You know, on that, in your book, you said that you wanted to be better than the women and females that you grew up with.
Yes, because I felt the way girls were treated growing up was unfair. I felt girls were, if a girl falls, if a girl cries, if a girl has a bad day, are you okay, sweetie? Don't cry. Come here. It's going to be all right. Dry your tears. It's so sweet and endearing and kind and overtly compassionate. With boys, stop crying. Stop whining. Pick your chin up. Be a man. Be tough. Put your hands up. Body shots, arm shots, a punch to your arm. All the rest of that. And it's conditioned. Majority by men. The understanding of men is what men think. We pass it on to men, to boys. Races have passed it on to boys. But women think the same about boys. And our society says that. So in my mind, I said, I want to receive this love, receive this compassion, receive this affection, receive this romance, and be a better steward of it. And I felt that I could because I'm a man and I know how men think. So growing up, and then from a boy to a teenager, and I'm saying girls getting gifts now, girls getting money now, dudes standing in girls' lockers and selling them all these sweet nothings. I said, man, what person wouldn't want that?
Yeah.
Let's just be plain. Let's just use human understanding. What person wouldn't want unprovoked, unconditional affection, kindness, endearment, physical touch, words of affirmation, quality time, all of those particular things? What person wouldn't want that? And then what person, when you have felt sex at the height of its sensation, what person wouldn't want to feel all of those things I just said with great sex?
That's a really interesting concept that you laid out. And I remember reading that in your book, and I was just like, you know what? It makes me think about even what what I experience or what I observe, with children is that the group of boys, they feel some type of way when they're getting beat up on by their uncles. And that is when they're young. So like when you were watching TV, the thoughts that came into your mind when you're young, they form and they create something bigger over time. And it's just how do parents navigate through that? They don't, this is your story. So you're telling this from your perspective, and this is how it was impacted on you is through the TV, and then watching girls be treated better than boys. So I wonder, where is that balance? Because then if you start to treat boys with love and care and, given the nurture of the mother, it's like, oh, you're too soft. And if you're too soft, then they're going to end up like a girl. So do you feel like you have an answer for what would create balance for a young child, or how parents or uncles or big brothers should interact with young boys in order for them to feel like it's okay to be a boy, it's okay to have strength, and it's not the fact that you're never going to get kisses or warmth, or you just have to be strong all the time? Because I feel like that has an impact on the mental well-being of a lot of Black men, is that they have to be so strong, they can't have emotions, and therefore they're acting out. They might act out in different ways. One way of acting out, and this is just a theory, I'm not talking any fact, one way of acting out could be that I'm just going to be a woman since they have it all. Another way of acting out is I'm just going to turn to alcohol and drugs and abuse it to the point where I'm numb from the
you're saying, forgive me for interjecting. What you're saying are several ways that I believe that men act out. Because the first way men can do that is just be there. Be there. And when you're there and you're actively there, you're actively in their life. You're actively showing masculine affection. You're actively showing them how to navigate their emotions. You're actively showing them how to being cared for is not soft, or it's not weak, or you're not a punk. You're actively showing them how to communicate and express their emotions and express how they feel. When you're actively doing that, but the problem is so many men don't know how to do that because they weren't told it was okay to do that. Our generation, I'm 34, has made therapy a thing that is congratulated. It is encouraged. The generation before us, what? Therapy. Particularly the Black community. All you need is Jesus. Just go pray. Mm-hmm. Nobody was big on therapy. So you don't have a lot of the training and development and just the demonstration of seeing that. And hypermasculinity is a thing. Mm-hmm. Hypermasculinity is a thing. By the time I was from the ages of 5 to just before 8, I had several sexual encounters with boys my age. Like I said, nobody forced me, nobody molested me, nobody made me do anything I didn't want to do. But by the time I was 9, I lost my virginity to a girl. Mm-hmm. And what I saw that provoked this, I saw porn for the first time. The friend of mine that showed me the porn was 9. I was 9. We were both in the 4th grade. We were friends in the neighborhood. And growing up in that time, from about 7, 8, 9, you start to see that the men that are the womanizers are congratulated. They are marketed. They're advertised. They are celebrated. And it just clicked when I saw the porn, because I was like, well, I really want to be the woman now, but I also want to be the guy too. Because I saw a different response sexually and verbally and physically that I had never saw, but I felt it came from the proceeding of things like walking down the beach, being swept off your feet, eating a romantic dinner, and then having this mind-blowing sex. But my mind also said, I want to be the man too, because I want to do this to girls. Mm-hmm. So you find a way to be what is presented before you and what's around you, regardless of what type of house you grew up in. It's what you see around you.
Yeah.
And that took me down a deeper road of lust. It took me down a deeper road of sexual desire, all still wanting to be the woman.
So media seems like it's the heart of it all, because you go back, you mentioned that it's not taught in a household of how to be masculine, things like that. And if you sit
I
there
would
go
not
back
taught
to
it.
it,
I'm sorry, I could cut you off. It's not, I wouldn't say it's not taught. It's not taught how to be masculine, how to be masculine and be in touch with your emotion, how to express how you feel in so many households as a boy.
and to that point, if we go back to even maybe the root of slavery, and slavery, that's where a lot of it may have stemmed from, because their slave owners used to abuse black men in front of their black women.
They did.
And
They
that,
abused them. They raped them.
and so when you have that as your source, and then you're moving out of that, it's like, well, how do I start to lead a household? Now I might be overpowering what it means to be a man, because for so long I was stripped of my manhood and couldn't do anything about it. And I was stripped of my manhood right in front of my family and my woman.
Yeah.
And I wonder if that energy or that spirit is kind of pervasive, and we need to break that curse somehow, is that we're just all out of order. There's no balance. And the solution is what? How do people find a solution? Some people find a solution in religion. Some people find a solution and something else. I don't know how people find a solution, but they just try to make it or fake it until they make it. And I feel like we're all kind of just wandering out here trying to do what's right, be the best way. And then we're arguing about those same concepts, but nobody really knows, well, what really makes us get to a solution? What really is the answer? Everyone believes that they have an answer, but we still find ourselves in these battles. So it's not.
I really, I can, let's get to the climax of my story.
Okay.
So the most satisfying things on this earth are food and sex. So the Bible says if you can, fasting, this type of power comes from prayer and fasting. And it's if a man can abstain and control his tongue, he is, and tongue meaning saying whatever you want to say. The tongue gives you so much satisfaction and sensation. But if you can control what you want to say and control your body, control your flesh, that you are like a perfect man. Keyword like a perfect man. Not saying you're perfect, but you're like a perfect man, complete man. So at the height of my life, or the height of my the sexual peak of my life, I was totally given to sensations of being with several men at a time, of several women at a time. I used to attend all male orgies. I used to attend heterosexual swinger parties. I used to mixing brown and white liquor was how I drank. Throwing large parties. I used to throw large college parties where I could, pack out the club to full capacity, grossing anywhere from just under up to $10,000 a night. All of that was sensational, but I was left feeling empty on many a night, thinking that this stuff would fulfill me. And the adversary kept saying to me, those of you that don't know who the adversary is, if you're not a faith, it's the devil, Satan. The spirit of wickedness kept saying, just come out as gay. Just come out as completely homosexual. And that gave me peace to think about that. I had gotten to the point where I started feeling empty and I was just really ready to come out as completely gay. I did not plan on falling in love with Jesus. I didn't plan on giving up my life to be completely submitted to Christ Jesus. That was not a goal of mine. My mother made me go to church a night after a big New Year's Eve party that my girlfriend and I threw at the time. She was my girlfriend at the time, is my wife today. I go to church. The bishop calls me to the front altar. He calls me by name. It's not really something I was looking to do. And then he says, go sin no more. That kind of bothered me, but I really wasn't thinking about it too much till it kept ringing in my head. And then I get downstairs to my room and I hear, go sin no more, go sin no more, go sin no more. And I was upset. Because then I yelled, that means no. That means I can't be gay no more. And I knew it was the presence of the Lord, but I was not reverencing him as the Lord of Lords. And I was yelling and screaming and crying, but my yelling and screaming and crying, if you could translate it in a language, it was saying, let me be gay, let me be gay, let me be gay. I did not be gay. It was my identity. It's what gave me fulfillment. It's what gave me confidence to be with men. So something had to conquer my mind. That's what I'm saying. All the things I told you I was doing and I was given to, something had to change my thoughts. Something had to look at me and say, what, if I give you this, see how it feels. And that's what happened. So then I said, I'm ugly, I'm insecure, I'm fearful, I'm doubtful, I'm afraid, I'm not confident. You don't know what it's like to be me. That's what I screamed.
You screamed that at the church or?
Screamed, I was on my knees in my room.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. My salvation, the event of my salvation was not typical. It was not typical. It was not a stereotypical being at an altar in a church. I was in my room on my knees. And then the Spirit of the Lord said, I was beaten. I was publicly ridiculed. I was publicly defamed. I was publicly betrayed. I was tortured. Then I was murdered because I love you. I was shocked. I heard that in my ears audibly.
So, okay, wait. So you heard the statement in your ears. Did the voice sound like you? Did it sound like a different voice than yours?
It sounds like very, because it's your ears. It's your spirit, but it was a voice that was very distinct. It's how I heard it. Like it could sound. It's the hearing of my vessel, of my flesh and my spirit, but I heard it very distinct. I heard it over my crying. I heard it over my anger. I heard it over my frustration. It pierced through that, and it pierced through my heart and my soul, and it got my attention to where the tears on my face just stopped. And after my tears stopped, it said, give me homosexuality, give me fornication, give me drinking, give me smoking, give me cursing. Give me everything. And I'm going to give you my love and you see how it feels. I was presented with a choice. And what I felt when I submitted my will to this presence, to this voice, I felt a love that I can't explain and describe to this day. I cannot define it. It is a greater sensation than anything I've ever experienced or ever heard of or has ever come in contact with my mind. I've never experienced that before. On a Jesus high, I'm on a Yeshua high. I'm never coming down. So if somebody says, well, I'm struggling with homosexuality, I'm struggling with lust, I'm struggling with finding my identity, I can share my story with them on how I found an identity that completed my confidence and the fulfillment of my identity to where I am at peace with who I am.
Yeah.
And if they decide to want to experience it through the methodology that I did, hallelujah, Jesus. If they don't want to, that's fine too. Still, hallelujah, Jesus, because they thought it no matter what. I can't force that on them. I can only present it to them if they want to know. Or if they're reading or looking me up and they're intrigued by it, then they can find out more about it and seek God for themselves. But I cannot make anybody want to do that. This is my secret this is my life of secrets with men to romance with him.
Yeah. So the romance part, let's go back just a little bit when you say you met your wife there. because as a woman, I don't
Mm-hmm.
know what my experience would be like if I took this scenario and I put it on a scenario map. Would I, how would I feel being with someone who's been with men most of their lives? I don't know what position I would be in. And I think it would take someone who has a faith base, someone who's very confident in herself, and someone who's very loving to be able to take that on. Can you share with us a little bit about
My
your wife
wife
and in y'all's story? Like, what was it like when you
told
told
her,
her that you used to be with men? How did she respond to that?
when I told her at first, she laughed and she was like, "Boy, you crazy, you silly, joking."
Mm-hmm.
And I kind of expounded on it, and she was like, "Boy, you big football player, muscular, ladies man, Vic. Now I don't believe it." And then I got a little more graphic, and she said, "You're not lying because any man in today's society would not make up this story."
Nope.
And when I got through telling the story, finished with the life. I said, "Yes." She said, "Are you?" I said, "I'm in love with Jesus, and I'm in love with you." And she said, "Okay, let's just move on."
Wow, just like that.
Yeah. 10 years later, we're still married. She's actually preparing dinner right now.
Okay, you got to get to the scene, so we're gonna wrap up really fast. So,
Yeah.
so is it ever any moments of insecurities of, or you just have her solid? She doesn't ever think like, oh, he might be out there with men right now, like.
Nope. She never has. And I've never given her a reason. Yeah. I've never given her a reason to think it with women either. You got to think, I was still a womanizer on the surface. I still slept with a lot of women too.
Yeah, so that's another part of it. You could be with men or women. So now the pool is open to a large amount of possibilities.
Yeah.
So there has to be a lot of security in your marriage. So big ups. I don't know if big ups is a thing, but props to being able to have such a powerful connection and relationship. Because I don't know if a lot of people can handle that on the surface, but it definitely tells the tale of what. Say it again.
That's unconditional love.
Unconditional love. That's it. And a lot of people are serving conditional love, and they think that they are loving unconditional, but unconditional love is something like that for sure.
Mm-hmm.
And it's beautiful that, because now going back full circle, when I said, what did that little boy think love is? Now this is really a definition of love being personified, especially, the love of God within your rooms. I would just assume is now being personified with the love of your wife and your children. So that's beautiful.
Yeah. Yes.
So just a few more questions. I know you have to go, so I'll just wrap it up. There were so many questions that I have, but the conversation went so different way. So I just encourage people to read the book, and then maybe you can come back on if anyone had any other questions and they sent me some emails and they wanted to, get to that part. Because I feel like the story is really interesting, and I want to share that when I was reading your story, you definitely shifted my perspective on just how religion and people who are religious or in the Christian faith may respond to homosexuality. Because you see different narratives, like there are narratives where they really bash the community, and then there's other sins that they're not bashing, right? It's really hardcore, like, you got to hate homosexuality, but they're not looking at the source of it, why it may be happening, and they're not really bringing the love of God. So if you have the love of God or Christianity, from my assumption, it is about being the truth. It's not really about bashing the truth on people.
Come on, woman of God. Yes. Be the
truth. Be it.
Yes.
If you see it, then
Yes.
people will just automatically relate to it. They will be what is that word? They will be drawn to you because you are actually the truth. You're living the truth.
Yes, I'm sorry, I cut you off. Forgive me.
Yeah, but if you're the living truth, then you don't have to, because I've been in organizations before where it's just like, you go out and teach the truth, or you go out and teach the word, and it's almost like you're fighting with these people. But if you really think the concept, if you who wants to be in any organization or any relationship where you was forced into it, or you was even made fun of because you're not in it, or you belittled to be in it? Like, I don't see how that's the way that you bait me in. You would bait me in by actually being, what the kids say, well, keep it at 100 with your truth. Like, you got to come and say, you can't be a homosexual. You can't do this. You can't do that. You are Satan's child. Then I'm like, okay, then I'll just be Satan's child over here. Like, I don't see how people think that the fear is the thing that brings people to their truth or their faith, their religion, their concept. I don't see how fear is supposed to bring you in. I think love, but then based on Christianity, there is the fear of God. So there's that concept. So they kind of put that on you too. Like, you gotta fear God. And so maybe that's why
it's a different fear though. People fear like it's frightening. No, it's not that. It's reverence.
Mm-hmm.
Your children reverence you. I reverence my parents.
Yeah.
My reverence me. It's a reverence of respect and honor. I honor my wife, so there are certain things that I'm going to do to show that.
Mm-hmm.
And honor God, and you honor his son that has died that we might have eternal life, we might be reconciled back to the creator. You honor him by being his word. You honor him by being the light. Like you said, you honor him by being the truth. And you have a lot of people that have misinterpretation or just in error of explaining the scriptures and explaining it as a demonstration of their life. And they drive a lot of people away. But the scripture says, if I, Jesus Christ, if I be lifted up, if the understanding of Christ Jesus be lifted up, he'll draw all men unto him.
Earlier, you said that there are people who are not going to like your book and they don't got to read it.
Yep.
Tell us, who is your audience? If you were, and we can actually go right into the selectivity game that I had and then the selectivity statement. So who is your audience? That's going to be the prerequisite for the selectivity game I have for you. Who is your audience? If you were to say, this is the people that I'm speaking to, and relationship to the book that I wrote, From Secrets with Men to Romance with Him, who would you be talking to? Who is the audience that you would be speaking to?
Anybody.
So anybody, this book is for anybody. Okay.
Yeah.
So the thing about marketing though, is that, like you said before, this book might not be for you. This book is not for you if it's not for you. So in order to be a marketing genius, you have to understand that to market to everyone is a failed attempt, because everything is not for everybody. To narrow down your audience, who would you put, what group, how would you define the characteristics of the group that you would market your book to?
If I'm a marketing major, so I know there is an audience. I have a target audience.
So who's the target audience?
Yeah. The reason why I say anybody and everybody, because it's a love story. Love stories. If you love stories of triumph, if you love stories of redemption, if you love stories if you love novels that dive into people's lives where you can see the great transparency, an audience that appeals to those types of books and that type of literature is my audience. I have other forms of my testimony out, and it will appeal to a more specific audience. But this book is for anybody.
Okay.
Because I can't see who would read it and who wouldn't read it.
Right.
And there are people that you would think wouldn't read it and they want to read it. I just showed this book the other day to a middle-aged white man, a police officer, and he read the back of it and he said, wow, this is captivating.
I mean, honestly, your book is one of those books where like, people are like, I wonder how that story ended. So you said that your market is for everyone. So now I'm giving you 15 seconds and I'll give you like 5 or 8 seconds to think about it, to put together a little jingle that you would use as your commercial for your book. You know, you're familiar with jingles, right? Like,
yes.
I heard you humming earlier before we started the show. I was like, well, maybe he want to do a little singing. So I will give you 8 little seconds on the clock, and then after that, you're gonna do a little jingle that promotes your book. So I wonder what phrase or what words you're gonna put together to promote your commercial. for the book?
All right. Let's.
All right. 8, 7, 6. I know she's like, what in the world this girl got to be doing? All right, you ready? Your jingle time is off the top of your head. Let's go. From
secrets with men to romance with him. Read me.
From secrets to men to romance with him. Which was that last part?
I said, read me.
Oh, read me. Okay, there you go, everybody. That's our self-activity game that we have. And now we're gonna go into our self-activity statement. And I shared this with you earlier, and I'm just gonna share it again with the audience. A self-activity statement is a type of self-activity. A self-activity is any intentional activity to invest in your health, your being, and your mind. Anything to help you become a better person, and that can be defined by you. Self-activity statement is one of the self-activities I created, which is very similar to an affirmation, but it's not just any affirmation. It's an affirmation coupled with an intentional action that supports that affirmation today. So, Mr. Victor Bell, author of From Secrets of Men to Romance with Him, what is your self-activity statement?
I will be sovereign.
And how do you support that affirmation?
By isolating and separating my thoughts from anything that tries to control me or hinder me from my purpose.
Okay, I like it. Come through. Well, thank you so much for your time here. This conversation was really, really interesting, and I didn't know it was going to go this way, but I think a lot came out of it. So I really am thankful for you sharing yourself, sharing your story. There was a lot of message within you, and I'm actually surprised because I didn't know that you thought the way that you did. So I really learned about who you are. I kind of had a generic understanding, but there is some depth to who you are and how you present yourself, and it's not just like, hey, this is the way it's supposed to be. And I appreciate that. Appreciate you being open-minded and coming on the show. I'm going to give you this opportunity to close out, to tell people where they can find you, where they can find your book. And if you want to, you can go ahead and talk about your brand. So here's the
floor. You can find my book on Amazon.com or Barnes & Noble. Once again, it's called From Secrets with Men to Romance with Him. You can also purchase it. Apple products are sold as a Kindle. You can reach out to me on Instagram at Love and Sword. That's LANDSWORD. Love and Sword. You can reach out to me on Facebook at Victor Edward. You can reach out to me on Clubhouse at Victor Edward at Yeshua Over Lust. My story is also featured on the 700 Club. No more illusions of love, or I think it's no more illusions of love, but if in Victor Bell 700 Club, you can find it on YouTube. Thank you all. Thank you, Danny, for letting me be a guest on your show, and thank you all for watching.
To learn more about Victor Bell's story, Google Victor Bell, From Secrets with Men to Romance with Him on Google.com, or check out his website.
This experience is brought to you by peacefulcreation.com. Choose life, choose joy, choose peace over chaos.